Welcome, everyone, to episode 5 of the Obtuse Angles Wrestling Podcast with Kyle and Jeremy. This week, we talk about the Big Boss Man.
Cobb County, Georgia.
I love the Big Boss Man.
Let me ask you a question, Kyle. I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm really excited about this episode. Do you think that Cobb County, Georgia, and Bad Street, Atlanta, GA, are anywhere in the same vicinity?
I have driven through both of them.
Maybe the same county seat, just different parts of the town.
Maybe. I remember it blew my mind when I found out that Cobb County, Georgia was a real place.
Yeah.
And I remember I was driving down. It was me and a van full of my buddies who are all huge wrestling fans. Some of them bigger than me, if you can even believe that.
I can't.
And, man, when we pulled through and we saw that sign in Georgia that said Cobb County, it got the biggest pop in the car. We started playing the Big Boss Man's old music. It was badass. So this episode, we're going to be talking about the Big Boss Man in the year 1999. Specifically, the Kennel From Hell match and the Big Show and his dead daddy. Speaking of dead daddy, I've kind of had this story up my sleeve for the 5 episodes, and I'm shocked that we made it all the way in.
I thought you were getting ready to tell me that your dad died. Speaking of dead daddies.
No, but he did in a wrestling angle that I masterminded and was so bad that the DVD of which has a small degree of infamy among wrestling tape traders about 10 years ago. So
Vince Russo would have had a boner.
Oh, no, like Vince Russo would have looked at this angle and been like, well, I swear to God, this is horseshit. I will never forget how shitty this angle is. Speaking of Vince Russo, I can't believe that we're doing a podcast on the worst wrestling angles of all time. And it took us 5 episodes to get to Vince Russo. That's crazy. That's got to be a record. That's crazy.
It's a little on the nose, I think. Maybe that's what we is. Maybe it's what it is. Maybe we're artists and we just don't want to touch on the obvious. I mean, it's a little on the nose. I mean, bad wrestling is synonymous with Vince Russo and vice versa.
Big Boss Man comes in. His character is that he was a prison guard in Cobb County, Georgia in the WWF back in the day. One of my favorite Big Boss Man feuds of all time is with Nails.
Oh my God.
Kevin Kelly, Kevin Wakehalls, however the hell you pronounce his name, who's really his highest degree of infamy comes from the fact that he choked Vince McMahon backstage one time because he thought that Vince stiffed him on a payday. At which point he was obviously fired, and then WCW quickly scooped him up to make him a wrestler called The Convict.
No, that's some brilliant writing there. Give it to you.
As a matter of fact, last week, while we were talking about the steroid trials in the mid-'90s with WWF, Vince obviously under fire, and one of the people that they had testify was Nails, who obviously had heat with Vince from a few years earlier, and apparently he cut one of
the prosecution's star player.
He was, and he cut one of the most over-the-top promos on Vince. Like it was like
in the courtroom.
In the courtroom, but all of the shit that he was saying was clearly just from a bitter ex-employee with an axe to grind. It was so over the top that many people believe his ridiculous testimony helped Vince get off.
Wow.
And Vince was so afraid of going to prison, by the way. Like, it was never like he wasn't really in jeopardy. He was convinced it was going to happen, so much so to the point that he had Bill Watts lined up to run the company. Wow. Bill Watts and Jerry Jarrett while he was in prison.
That's actually something I might enjoy seeing would be Bill Watts and Jerry Jarrett running the WWF. But, I mean, I've watched enough Law & Order to know that any attorney worth his salt is going to be able to pick apart when they do direct. Yeah. And I'm using courtroom lingo here. When they do direct, that they can tear that apart. That's really weird, though. I've never heard anything about that before.
Oh yeah,
Nails cutting a promo on Vince. Yeah, in the courtroom.
I need to look up exactly what he said, but apparently it was over the top and it was ridiculous. You said that you'd like to see Bill Watts in WWF. My friend, you did. Bill Watts, for a very short time, was in charge of booking in '95 in WWF, and he gave us King Mabel.
So are we back? We're back to Men on a Mission.
We're back to Men. Yeah.
I don't understand. It seems weird that Bill Watts, if you really think about Cowboy Bill Watts,
I know.
having Mabel be
Yeah.
the king of anything.
Bill Watts also was in charge of Ron Simmons becoming the first world champion for a major American wrestling company.
Bill
too.
Watts, I apologize. I guess we just had you all wrong.
The first black world champion, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
That's really unexpected. That's a swerve.
It is.
It's definitely a
It's
swerve.
a swerve, baby. The nitro swerve.
Or as Dusty would say, a swerve.
That's the swerve daddy. So going back to the Boss Man. Boss Man leaves WWF. I believe he was let go. I can't remember, but he goes to WCW, at which point he was called The Boss. And at some points they referred to him as The Boss. Man, they did, and WWF is one of many
stab.
Yeah, one of many letters the WCW got from the WWF cease and desist department. So he went through a variety of characters. He was the Angel at one point, and the Angels were basically a neighborhood watch, real life group of people in the mid '90s. And Big Boss Man, Ray Traylor, played that character for a while.
Yeah, and he wasn't he just Ray Traylor?
Well, he was, but before that, he was Big Bubba.
No, Kyle. No, he was Big Bubber.
Big Bubba. He was Big Bubba, obviously.
Big Bubber.
In NWA and WCW before he went to the WWE.
Right.
So he Big Bubba. Didn't do a whole lot, but he did cut one of my favorite promos ever. He got injured while he was, I believe he was in the NWO. And he cuts this promo on Nitro after he's injured where he declares, "I'm just Ray Traylor." And he talks about how when he was injured, the doctors told him that he'd never walk again. And he put a picture of Eric Bischoff on the other side of the room. And every day he tried so hard to walk towards that picture of Eric Bischoff to rip it up. Until finally one day he mustered up the strength to walk over and rip that picture up.
That's what you call a real American right there. Because at that time, I'm pretty sure most of America wanted to rip Eric Bischoff down from their wall.
That was a badass promo.
Not that anyone ever had pictures of Eric Bischoff on their wall, but you get what I mean.
I had 12. All the different hairstyles.
You would.
The gray, the short gray, the black, the long
goatee.
black. The goatee.
Daddy.
Man, we keep slipping on back to Dusty, don't we?
I'm going to have to step out here in a minute. Whew.
You can give yourself a couple of minutes in the bathroom, huh?
I'm going to need to. I'll make sure it's the men's this time, not the women's.
So yeah, you did. You're recording in the studio where I work, and Jeremy did not know. He steps out to go to the bathroom, just notices he's in the women's restroom. I really wish somebody would have walked in.
I did, and this is something interesting because I'm trying to come up with some new openers for my stand-up comedy. If I may go off the rails here for a moment.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever had that morning where you wake up hungover the next morning and you stumble into the bathroom instead of fighting, with your junk to get it out and take a piss? Do you ever just drop your pants right there in front of the toilet down to your ankles and piss like a retarded child?
All the time.
I wanted to open up a show with that. Like, how many of you in here, show of hands, pissed like a retarded child? But that's where I was going. Is that I totally just took a retarded child piss in there because I'm really tired and lethargic right now.
Usually in the morning, though,
in the women's room.
I don't have to fight with my dick. It's so hard, and not because I have impossible
Piss boner.
Yeah, I get the piss boner. Yeah, it just fights its way out of my pants.
Yeah, see, I don't. I just stagger in there, hungover, and just drop my pants around my ankles. You remember that one kid in school who would stand at the urinal?
He was the retarded kid.
Pants and underwear bunched around his ankles, pissing with his bare ass hanging out for the world to see.
You ever have the piss dream and you wake up and you're terrified?
Yeah.
You never have that?
Now, I've had it both. I've had it where I woke up and been laying in a 2 inches of standing piss.
I've never done that. I've never pissed in my sleep. You've done that?
Yeah. And I woke up relieved, too, that I didn't piss.
What? You woke up relieved and you've woken up relieved. So Ray Traylor leaves WCW and he he returns to WWF under a mask in 1998. And for a few weeks, we didn't see who he was. And he pulls the mask off and it's Big Boss Man. I believe his first match was against Austin. Gets a whole lot of offense in against Austin in the main event of a Monday Night Raw, by the way. But we're not talking about that. We are talking exclusively about 1999. All of that brings us here. And the first topic we're going to discuss, the amazing Kennel From Hell match.
Oh, my goodness. You know what? I see where it's really tough, man, because you watch you watch Hell in a Cell and you see the Mick Foley and or Mankind versus Undertaker, and Hell in a Cell was brilliant. Then you watch Shawn Michaels and Undertaker.
Oh yeah,
and Hell in a Cell is a
Absolutely.
brilliant match. Even Vince McMahon. I don't know if it was a Hell in a Cell, but he did a cage match that was wonderful where the side of the cage swung open and he winds up taking a bump off of it onto a table.
That was February of '99, St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
It was
Big Show's debut where he comes up from the ring. Yeah,
absolutely. And you see all these wonderful cage matches, and everyone seems to forget the Kennel from Hell match. Oh wait, I know why, because that match was the drizzling shits, the absolute drizzling shits. And I'm going to surprise you a little bit when we start to talk about it. There's going to be some things that I bring up that with anybody who knows me, it might surprise you that I actually hated about that match.
Well, I'll tell you this. I love the Big Boss Man in 1999. We're covering him on a podcast that talks about bad wrestling, I guess it is bad wrestling. That being said, I am entertained as hell by all of this, and not even in the perverse sense of, oh, this is so bad it's good. I just love the Big Boss Man's character in 99. I love it because he was an unmitigated douchebag asshole with no conscience and no soul.
Very relatable material.
Yes, it was like looking in a mirror. So it starts off, Al Snow, the guy who we all know and love, who by the way, one of the few guys who brought his gimmick in from another promotion pretty much wholesale.
Yeah.
They didn't change Al Snow when he came from ECW. Obviously,
I feel like maybe ECW didn't own any rights to that whole gimmick, I think.
Or maybe,
but I don't think they did a lot of that, did they?
Or maybe they just didn't care. I don't know. I know obviously Al Snow was in WWF before WCW.
Yeah.
He was Leaf Cassidy. Part of the New Rockers. With Marty Jannetty. He was Shinobi. He was a ninja under a mask. He was a whole bunch of different characters.
Yeah.
Never caught steam. Goes to ECW. He gets a mannequin head. He does a crazy gimmick, and he debuts in WWF, and he gets over.
Yeah.
He's never going to be a world champion with that gimmick. But he's a good worker. People like him. Every wrestler should aspire to get to that level.
Absolutely, and he's still, and along with the head gimmick that he brought from ECW, he brought the whole Job Squad thing. The 1, 2, 3 for life, the whole
pin me, pay me,
all that stuff, man.
I loved it. It was great.
Yeah, it really was. And which really surprises me, because that seems like a gimmick ripe for ECW. It seemed a little too on the nose for WWE, but beyond me, they ran with it. I think I got to commend them. I thought it was really cool.
They did. So they do this deal where I believe Head gets stolen, and it's so sad. I couldn't find exactly what happened to Head. By the way, one of my favorite Mick Foley moments is one time when Al Snow loses Head, and Mick Foley finds it and he gives it to him in a backstage promo. So he hands him Head. And then Al Snow goes, "You know what this means, right?" Then Mick Foley goes, "Yeah, I gave you Head." Okay, yeah. It was great. I loved it. So Al...
dodgy little one-liner there. It was sweet.
It was great. So Al loses Head, and in order to replace him, he finds a Chihuahua who is like his best friend in the world. Pepper is his buddy. He hangs out with Pepper. He talks to Pepper.
And then lacking any sort of moral compass, and like myself, and yourself, if I may.
Sure.
If I may be so bold as to say.
Of course.
I love the fact that this, like the Katie Vick angle, I mean, it was awful, atrocity. Yeah. But just lacking any kind of moral compass, the fact that there was dog murder featured in this angle. Dog cannibalism. I guess it's not technically cannibalism. Dog eating.
There was dog murder.
I loved it. I absolutely loved this angle. I cracked up the whole time.
It's great.
It really is.
It really, I know everybody talks about how terrible this is now, and they have for years. Yeah, the match was shit, but the storyline was hilarious. It was dark comedy.
It was.
That's all it was. And I thought it was great.
I thought it was perfect, man. It was awesome.
So Al Snow and Big Boss Man get some heat because they are feuding over the Hardcore Championship.
Yeah.
And in one of the best, and by best I mean the most fun.
They had a hardcore title match at the one of the pay-per-views.
SummerSlam 99. Did you watch that?
Yes, I absolutely did.
It was fantastic.
It was a really great match. the thing that I liked the most about it was the way they opened up the match, the way they started.
Yeah.
Al Snow gets introed first with music, comes out, and he climbs up on this piece of machinery, and then he waits for Big Boss Man's entrance to play, and Boss Man walks out from the curtain, and then all of a sudden, here comes Al Snow flying off with a high cross body. Yeah. I thought it was a cool way to kind of open. It was like a real legit sort of thing.
It was. I mean, and I think in a way they really need to bring these matches back, at least for a short period of time, because they did them to death. They did the hardcore thing over and over and over.
And the title meant shit. I mean, let's be honest.
No, that's why you can have, Crash Holly be the 47-time hardcore champion. Right. But it was fun to watch.
They were a lot of fun, yeah.
And it was so refreshing at the time, and I think it would be now, because in this match, they fight into the back. They fight literally across the street. And now, whenever they go outside, they've got a million security guards blocking the fans off. It looks fake as hell. It's like, okay, why would all those security guards be there if they didn't know they were going to go?
Exactly.
Well, in this one, you don't see any security guards on the street or in the bar that they battle into across the street in the match.
Yeah.
Like it's them, the referee, for some reason, Road Dogg on commentary the whole time.
Yeah, and when I was in the business, when I was working, I actually would try 2 years later to duplicate the exact same match that they had at SummerSlam '99.
Yeah,
and which actually ended with someone being thrown into the Ohio River.
Yeah, really.
And it wasn't me, so that tells you it was my opponent. And I just wanted to have that wild match that kind of went all over the place. I mean, I Irish whipped my opponent into the women's bathroom. Which
great.
may or may not be why I have an affinity for women's bathrooms, just like today.
That could be why. Well, that was a hardcore title match against Hardcore Holly, where they fought in the river, and Al Snow, I think, wrapped him up in a fence, or it might have been vice versa.
I never knew about that.
He wrapped him up in a fence.
I thought I was original.
And then he pinned him. No, it's
Wait a minute, what year was that?
I think it was 99.
Years before I did it, so.
Well, there you go. So they fight across the street, and they go into the bar, and Al Snow hits him in the balls with some balls.
Just in the ball.
And
just
one
in
ball.
one ball.
Well, it was the left nut. It was psychology. He had to work the left nut because the left nut faces the crowd, ladies and gentlemen. We all know this.
Yeah.
So, no, they have their match, and Al Snow wins, and he's the hardcore champion, and that kind of kicks off the feud. So, Big Boss Man, who is pissed at Al Snow for winning the match, decides to dog-nap his little buddy, Pepper.
Dog-nap.
And Al Snow's very upset about this.
Oh, who wouldn't be?
So Big Boss Man tries to cut Al Snow a deal. He says, I'll tell you what, you give me a shot at that hardcore title, I will give Pepper back to you. And in one of the funniest segments, when they have the match, Big Boss Man carries Pepper down the ramp.
Which is a sight to behold in its own.
And he has a tiny little muzzle over his face. Like Pepper, this little chihuahua, has this tiny muzzle on his mouth.
Like a thimble.
It was like a thimble, but it was like he was so dangerous that he needed the muzzle. And and they didn't acknowledge, like, all of this whole angle screams of Vince Russo, but in the best possible way.
Right,
though.
yeah.
Like this was where Russo really shined. These batshit, over the top, ridiculous angles. And but Big Boss Man, he wins or he loses. The bottom line is, after the match, he does not. He goes back on his offer. He takes the Chihuahua, and then he tells Al Snow, he says, listen, you know what? When I was a kid, I had a dog too. And I feel really bad about this, and I'm not playing around. What do you say? You come to my hotel room this Thursday. We talk about it, and I give Pepper back to you. And Al Snow says, okay. So they meet up.
Little did we know.
So it happens on SmackDown, and the camera is on Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler. And Michael Cole, and I love how they sell it too, because they're like, ladies and gentlemen, this happened earlier today. This is filmed. We have not seen this yet, but it's my understanding that Al Snow and Pepper were reunited, and it was a very happy scene. And Jerry Lawler's like, oh, well, good for them. Okay, so roll the video. So it rolls the video, and Al Snow walks into the hotel room, and Big Boss Man goes, Al, please, sit down. Sit down, Al. And he gets this big plate out, and it looks like Chinese food. It's like, which ironically, I bet it does, I swear, that wasn't even a joke. I guarantee you they got Chinese food.
It looked like some chicken on a stick, just kind of minus the stick.
It did, yeah. It looked like bourbon chicken or something. and he sits like this bourbon chicken dish looking down, And Al Snow is real serious because in the segment he's calling him Ray. He's calling him by his real name. He's like, Ray, listen, I love this dog, man. Okay,
hey, brother.
Okay, exactly. I love this dog, and this dog is very important to me. Okay, and and like, Al Snow's like,
I love it.
And Boss Man's like, he's like, I know, but look, brother, just eat some of this. Just eat some of this food, okay, brother? Just eat some of this food. It'll be all right. It'll be all right. And so he eats the food, and then Boss Man goes, by the way, how's that food taste, Al? Oh, it tastes pretty good. Really? Because it's pepper. You're eating pepper, you stupid bastard. And then to add,
Al Snow gets confused and says, "Wait, I'm allergic to pepper."
To add insult to injury, he beats up Al Snow, and then he throws him into the bed of the hotel, and he walks out. Al Snow was obviously distraught that he has eaten his dog. I'd be remiss, though, if before that, the week before that, Pepper was missing. Boss Man hadn't told Al. He hadn't told Al that he abducted him yet, so he had a little, have you seen, like a missing child flyer, and it said, have you seen me? And then it had a phone number on the bottom.
No.
And as Mick Foley revealed, and I believe Have a Nice Day, his first book, that phone number was Val Venus's cell phone number.
Oh.
And Val did not know that Al put his phone number on there.
Nice.
Val got phone call after phone call informing him where Pepper was.
I can't.
So
I'm at a loss for words here, man. Oh boy.
So that happens. Al eats him and he challenges him to the infamous the Kennel From Hell match, which he explains is going to be a regular old school blue bar steel cage, and then surrounded by that is going to be the Hell in a Cell. And then in between those two cages is going to be vicious Rottweilers or pit bulls. I want one of those. Was it pit bulls?
They were Rottweilers.
Rottweilers, vicious Rottweilers. And in order to win the match, you had to climb over the first cage, run through the dogs, go out the cell, and win.
And be very sure not to slip in the dog piss.
Exactly.
The last dog they brought into the cage, he stops and takes a piss right in the doorway.
Yeah, well, the great thing about it is that those dogs were clearly stoned out of their minds.
Yeah,
they were medicated as hell. And I tried to do some digging. No pun intended. I tried to do some digging on this match, and Vince Russo blames himself. Well,
that's a first.
Well, let me correct that. Vince Russo blamed himself in the way that he always blames himself, by claiming it was his fault and then saying somebody else's problem. Because I'm reading this blog that Russo wrote, and he said it was his fault that the match was so bad, but he did not know that they would not be trained police dogs. Instead, they were like regular dogs, like that people around the area brought to it, right? So in the match, the dogs spend the whole time.
They're Rottweilers, a popular police breed, you know.
Right. Well, I guess because Russo said that in his mind they were going to be these vicious dogs barking and trying to, bite the guys and stuff.
I'm all for trying something new, and it's weird to say out loud because I don't like to admit it. But this match, I think, had it been executed properly, is something that I could have got behind.
I agree. Now I'm
going to go ahead and tell you the first thing. There's two things that I really, really, and I mean completely independent of the fact that neither one of them really worked much in the match.
Yeah.
Like the wrestling really wasn't top shelf. I'll tell you the first thing of two things that I really hated, aside from the action in this match, was that no one got bit by a dog.
Yes.
I mean, Ray Traylor, Big Boss Man, he worked in full pants.
That is exactly what I was getting ready to say.
They could have gimmicked one of his legs
easily,
and then trained a dog to bite that leg.
Right.
No one got bit by a dog in this whole match.
He was wearing a flak jacket.
Yeah.
I mean, if there was ever a wrestler whose attire dictated that he would be able to be bitten by a dog safely, it was the Big Boss Man.
Absolutely.
And I kept, and he was the heel, and I kept waiting for it. I kept thinking, okay, they're going to do the match, and Al Snow is going to escape, or
it would have been perfect,
right? But nobody got bitten by any dogs.
No, nothing.
Like you booked the match and didn't think that far ahead.
If you're gonna have a match with ravenous dogs, outside, you got to think the first thing in your head when you come up with this idea for this match is that someone has to get bitten by a dog.
The match was mostly stalling. I'll tell you one thing I did enjoy, though. The only thing about this match I enjoyed was that Boss Man gets some wire clippers or some wire cutters.
Yeah.
And he climbs the first cage and he cuts a hole in the roof. Yeah. And I'm thinking, oh, that makes sense. That would be something a heel would do.
Right.
He would outsmart it and he would still win the match by escaping. But here's the thing. In the match, for no apparent reason, after Big Boss Man incapacitates Al Snow, which, by the way, he does that by hitting Al Snow in the head with the edge of the bolt cutters, which was a vicious spot.
After 500 times of ramming his face into the actual metal bars around the ring.
Yeah, exactly. So Boss Man climbs out the hole in the roof, which it looked pretty cool. But for some reason, he goes back into the cage without explaining why and then tries to go through the dogs. I think the spot there is Boss Man walks on top of the cage, and when he goes to the corner, he looks down, and you know what I mean? And then, oh, my God, I'm terrified. I can't do this. I have to go out the other way.
Right, yeah.
Like, that's a chicken shit, cowardly heel thing to do.
Sure.
No, they didn't do that.
No, of course they didn't.
So Al Snow climbs the cage. He gets out. Meanwhile, the dogs are humping each other. They're pissing and crapping on the floor, and that was the end of the match.
You know, the other thing that I hated about the match, I'll tell you, the other thing was Mick Foley on color commentary.
I think you must have watched.
I think I watched a special version of it that was released on some kind of WWE home video.
Hard Knocks and Cheap Pops. I've never seen that. Yeah, I believe it was Hard Knocks and Cheap Pops.
Okay, because I didn't think, because the commentary was awful.
Yeah.
I love Mick Foley. Mick Foley and Ric Flair are basically the two reasons that I ever wanted to become a professional wrestler.
Foley's one of the greatest of all time on the mic.
But there was something about I was like, see, I knew it had to be some kind of other version of the match.
Yeah, it was
because I thought there's no way in hell Vince is sitting back there letting this go on.
No, it was
it was Michael Cole and Mick Foley.
What was his commentary like? Because it was supposed to be awful. It was a bonus feature where he was making fun of the match.
It was super over the top and just awful. So
that's what it was.
It was really. I mean, that's the whole angle. The whole angle was super over the top and awful. And thank God, because I thought something might have been wrong with the commentary. I was like, no way this is going to fly, because the commentary was really that bad.
No, the original commentary was JR and the King, and JR having to put over the vicious nature of the dogs, who they could barely show on camera because every time they did, they started up. Yeah. So those are vicious dogs out there, folks. Boss Man he killed his dog.
God is my witness, they are vicious dogs.
Yeah. So, very shortly after that feud, we transition into maybe my favorite angle of all time, Big Boss Man and Big Show's dead daddy.
No, here we go. We're here.
We're here, man. We are here. I love this feud more than anything. And I think that they knew how terrible this feud was.
But you ironically like this feud. You don't genuinely like this feud.
I don't know if I do, or I think I love
the line's getting blurred these days. You can't figure it out.
I don't think I ironically hate it, because it was designed to be funny and it was designed to be dark comedy. I know it was tasteless. Like, Big Show's father really had been dead for a few years, so it wasn't like his dad really was dying. If he really was dying and they made a storyline around that would have been terrible.
Well, they had to seal it up for all the tape traders and internet nerds who were going to go and try to research and find out whether or not Paul White's father was really dead.
I'll tell you how much I love this storyline. We mentioned before, both of us are former professional wrestlers, comedians. I wrestled, one of my first matches I ever wrestled was in a promotion in Barberville, Kentucky.
Oh, boy.
And I wrestled my good friend, the Kentucky Stud, who still wrestles. I came up with a storyline to really give our feud some juice. Oh. And I want to reiterate that I thought this was a good idea. This was not something that I came up with because I thought it was funny in an ironic way or kitschy. I thought, man, we're going to have them, brother.
You were dedicated.
So I debut in this promotion in Barberville, Kentucky, and I come out to the ring, and the first time I'm ever announced, the guy who was the commissioner of the company, and I'm using the air quotes.
Yeah,
he was
going to bring that up.
I'm wrestling a guy named Wild Willie, and the commissioner goes, and by the way, Willie was very old. He goes, by the way, Willie, you might know Kyle's dad, Frank Kincaid.
Frank Kincaid, yeah.
So Willie, obviously,
everybody knows Frank Kincaid,
right? And that's not true. My father was a coal miner. He's a construction worker. No, what the hell? I just made that.
Are you still working?
I am. I'm working.
You work in our audience.
I can't switch from kayfabe to not, brother. He's an assembly line worker. No, my father was never a wrestler, but in this promotion, yeah, sure, his name was Frank Kincaid.
Yeah.
And he was a wrestler. So Willie, of course, sells it. So that kind of plants the seed in my mind. So I don't come back to the promotion for 2 weeks. I've crafted this storyline. I come out to the ring, and I get in, and I grab the mic, and I'm looking really somber. And I go, I want to say that my father, Frank Kincaid, who wrestled for many years, right here in the Barberville National Guard Armory, passed away last week. And you hear the murmur, oh my God. And I go, and I just want to say that it's meant a lot to me. All of you all who have stopped me at the Walmart and told me that you feel for me and you love my father. He really would have meant a lot to him. And I want to say this. I think it would have meant a lot to him that I buried him with his U.S. championship title that he won right here in Barberville, Kentucky.
What the hell?
And everybody, I swear to God, everybody goes, oh, that's great. And then I go, and if it's not too much, can I ask us all to stand for a 10-bell salute to my father?
Wow.
So, ding, 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 ding. 5th bell. Ding. Before it gets to the 6th one, the Kentucky Stud comes out. He goes, oh, I loved you, Daddy, Frank Kincaid. I loved you, Daddy. I loved your mommy more, but I loved you, Daddy. So he's on the apron. I storm, and he jumps off. At which point, Kentucky Stud takes off the robe that he is wearing, and he's wearing a U.S. championship title under the robe. And I go, that's my dad's belt. And he goes, you're damn right it's your dad's belt. Took me it took me and 3 other guys an hour and a half to dig his old ass up. He was a little blue. By the way, he says hi.
Oh.
So now, I've came up with this story.
Did Vince Russo write this angle?
I told you this is worse than anything Russo. So again, I want to give you this story to know that we make fun of these angles, but I am no stranger to shitty wrestling angles.
No.
So here's the thing.
We can smell our own, is what we're saying.
So I've created this angle, right? But somehow the crowd is still with it. It's Barberville, Kentucky, so they still.
Yeah, what else are they going to do?
They still believe it. Now, Jeremy, if you were in this match, how would you proceed once the bell rang? You might, if you were the baby face whose father had just been dug up, try to beat the ever-living hell out of the heel, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely.
Get yourself disqualified because it does not matter whether you win or lose.
It's about the ass kicking.
It's about the ass kicking. We proceed to do comedy spots. He just dug up my dad, and he broke in the casket and stole the championship.
And this is the first time, by the way, that I'm hearing this. And
yeah, because I wanted to save it for this episode.
I am so jealous that I did not come up with this angle myself. Why wasn't I a part of it, man?
Oh, everybody's jealous. You know the bear on the roof spot? It's where you Irish whip a guy and you do the crisscross.
Yeah.
The crisscross, and then you go, hey, stop! What's that up there? And the guy looks up and it's a bear on the roof, and you chop him in the head. We did that spot. And then we did the spot where he, as the heel, pointed to his noggin and went, okay. He goes, run this way. So we crisscross again, and then he goes, hey, stop, and then I hit him a second time. It was so bad that a buddy of mine took, and there's footage of this match. There's the DVD of this match. My buddy put commentary over it. And do you know IWA Mid-South's Ian Rotten? Have you met him?
I've worked for him.
He apparently has I've heard he has a copy of this and loves this match. Like, this thing has grown slightly in infamy. And the only reason I'm not an internet superstar is because YouTube was not a thing, or at least not very big when this match happened.
It's never too late, man. I think it's time.
I think I want to put this on YouTube.
As a matter of fact, I think we should mock up our own version of this and do our own commentary on this match for a future episode.
Oh yeah. Oh, and the DVD was complete with promos of us afterward. Me telling him that I'm going to kill him, I'm going to murder him, and all this. It was terrible.
That's
so
amazing.
So, oh, and by the way, after the match, again, I was the babyface. I had some fans walk up to me and go, I watched your daddy wrestle right here in my room. That's right. He loved you, brother. He loved you. Oh, it's terrific. And I'm not lying because you wrestled. You know that those people are out there.
Yes, they are. They are. And it's good that they can come support you in your time of imaginary need.
Exactly. So that brings us to this angle. It all starts when the Big Show is informed on Raw, backstage, on live TV no less, that his father has been diagnosed with terminal cancer. And he's very sad about that. So for some reason, this pisses the big boss man off that the Big Show's father is dying of cancer.
No, I've heard that. I've heard nothing makes him madder than people dying of cancer.
Big boss man comes out and he attacks Big Show and he cuts a promo on him. He says like, "Hey man, life is life." Like he calls him weak for being upset that his father is dying of cancer. So this goes on, and Big Boss Man pays a cop he pays a man to pretend to be a cop and inform the Big Show that his father has passed away.
Wowzer.
And it happens before the main event of a Raw. Big Show is told backstage. He starts crying, but then we see, courtesy of GTV, remember GTV?
Yeah, I do, yes.
Courtesy of GTV, a hidden camera backstage, we see Big Boss Man pay the guy money. And this is when we know, it was fake. Big Show's dad isn't dead yet. Right. So of course Boss Man goes, "So tell me, what did he say? What did he say?" And then he goes, "Oh, my dad is dead." Good job, man. So
it's so tasteful. It really is.
Oh God, yeah. So Big Show was obviously furious over this, and
I hate a lot of the stuff we do on the show. I hate a lot of the angles.
Why?
But with this one, man, I'm entertained. I don't understand why people got really upset about that.
So the next week, Big Show faces Albert in the ring, and beforehand, Albert tells Big Show before the match, he goes, "Hey, listen, man, I'm not the big boss man. I've got nothing to do with the big boss man tonight. I just want to test myself, and I want to face you in the ring." And Big Show's like, "Oh, okay," because obviously Albert is scared of Big Show. So while Albert is wrestling the Big Show in the ring, the big boss man walked. The lights just went out in the studio. You there?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Did we just get cut?
Is the big?
Is that the stoplight?
We're still on.
Okay.
Oh my God. Okay, let's keep going. I've worked here.
And there it went again.
Oh my God. Is that the ghost of the Big Show's father? I've worked here for 11 years.
I think it's the ghost of Frank Kincaid.
And this is never. You know what's so sad? I'm not even kidding. When the lights went out, my first thought was my pacemaker. I don't even have a pacemaker. Why was my first thought my pacemaker?
I feel like we ran over on time, and they're giving us the stoplight. Like, stop this now.
So let's keep going.
While we're talking about dead daddies.
While the Big Show is wrestling Albert, the big boss man walks down the ramp, and he's holding this gold watch. And he gets on the mic, and he goes, "Hey, Big Show, I wanted to see how sick your daddy really was. So I went and talked to his ass in the hospital, and he was clinging on to this old family heirloom of yours. He said that it was his watch and it was your granddaddy's watch." And then Big Show's going to rush him and beat him up. And he goes, "Hey, you come up here. I'll break this with this hammer." So, of course, Albert attacks Big Show from behind. Big Show fights off Albert. But then Boss Man hits Big Show in the head with the hammer and then proceeds to break the watch, to break this family heirloom. Because Boss Man said that he tore it out of his dying father's hands. He said... He told him, the boss man told him that his father was disappointed in him and all this stuff, and he told him that his father was dying of disappointment.
I love it. I love it so much. Oh,
I love this angle. And here's the thing. I was such a mark. I used to watch all the weekend shows. I watched Live Wire on Saturday.
You watched Sunday Night Heat.
I watched Superstars on Sunday morning. All of that happened, right? And on Livewire, the Saturday before they informed us that the Big Show's father had passed away, I remember Todd Pettengill, or I think it was Michael Cole, whoever was like, and we have just been informed as we went on the air that the Big Show's father has slipped into critical condition. You know what I mean? So on Monday...
A moment of silence for the Medium show.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, the show is not big enough for us to announce that he's died. But we got a feeling that on Monday night, he might pass away right about 9 o'clock Eastern time. So just stick with us here, folks. So the show starts, and Lillian...
The ratings on this show aren't good enough yet for him to die.
Right.
So check back with us on Monday.
Lillian Garcia tells us she opens up Monday Night Raw by informing us that the Big Show's father has passed away.
Of course.
The Big Show is gone. Of course, the Big Boss Man's music hits. He interrupts the 10-bell salute. Gee, wonder where I got that idea from. And he expresses his condolences to the Big Show for his father passing by reading a poem. And in the poem, I've quoted a bit of it. He says, quote, "He lived a full life on his own terms. Soon he'll be buried and eaten by worms." But if I had a child as stupid as you, I'd wish for cancer so I could die too.
Is that James Joyce?
I think it is. And then it wraps around and it continues again.
Oh boy!
So and then he stops and he raises his arms on the bottom of the ramp, and of course King and JR are disgusted by this. So then we cut to Thursday night SmackDown, the most infamous segment, maybe in SmackDown history, the funeral for Big Show's father, where it zooms in on Big Show and he's giving the eulogy and he says, "Dad, you were a good man." And then all of a sudden you hear like something in the distance and the camera zooms in down the road and the Big Boss Man is driving the Blues Brothers car. The car from Blues Brothers with the big speaker on top. And he gets on the thing and he goes, hey, baby, hey, Big Show's mama, now that you're a single mother, you want to come over to my place? So Big Show is so angry that he tries to beat up Boss Man by climbing on the hood of the car. So Boss Man hits the gas, Big Show rolls off, the whole family surrounds Big Show, who's on the ground. Big Boss Man hooks the coffin to the bumper of the police car and drags the coffin off. At which point Big Show runs and jumps on the coffin, but then gets thrown off. There's nothing I can say to that will add anything to that.
No, leave it alone. That angle was perfect.
So the match happens at Survivor Series. It's the Big Boss Man's team versus the Big Show's team. It's a Big Boss Man and like Viscera, I think Albert and somebody else. And it's supposed to be the Big Show
and his mom and his aunt.
That would make more sense.
Yeah.
It was Big Show with the Blue Meanie and Kai and Tai. Those were his partners. But on Sunday Night Heat,
what the hell?
On Sunday Night Heat before Survivor Series, the Big Show beats all of them up because he's so angry. And like at which point, like Blue Meanie,
he's inconsolable.
Blue Meanie is like, "But we're on your side." So Big Show,
you know, it's bad when the Blue Meanie's the voice of reason.
Yeah. So Big Show walks down to the ring and he chokeslams all three of Boss Man's partners in no time at all. 1, 2, 3. Eliminates all three of the guys in like 60 seconds or something ridiculous. Right. And then Boss Man, Chicken Shit Hill, runs away. He runs up the ramp. He's gone, right? That would lead. And so later that night at the Survivor Series, that would be the night that Steve Austin famously gets hit by the car. We would later find out was driven by Rikishi, which that's a whole nother episode for another time.
Yeah, definitely.
Stone Cold was not able to wrestle on that show, so he filled in the main event, and it was a triple threat match. It was like The Rock, and it was Triple H, and it was Big Show, and Big Show wins. Big Show was the surprise entrant. He filled in for Stone Cold. He wins the match, and he wins the world title. And that sets us up for the next month in December, Armageddon, the blow-off to the feud, Big Show versus Big Boss Man.
We're there. We're finally there.
For the world title. Well, we still got a month of
still got a nice month.
We still got a nice month. In that month, what would happen?
I got a nice a nice month of butt fuckery
Exactly.
to hold us over till we get there.
So Big Boss Man becomes #1 contender on Monday Night Raw. He Boss Man slams The Rock after Albert, who we now find out was in cahoots with the Big Boss Man all the whole time.
All along.
He distracts The Rock. By the way, Boss Man getting the pin on The Rock is something that I'm sure nobody ever thought they would see.
Yeah, no one ever. Yeah, you couldn't surmise that.
And they build to this feud. One of the different ways they build to the feud is by having the Big Show. They're talking to the Big Show in the back. Michael Cole is interviewing him, and they cut to the outside where Big Boss Man and Albert throw a smoke canister into the locker room that Big Show is in, and he shuts the door, and Big Show is trying to get out, but he collapses, and it goes to commercial, and it cuts back, and the EMTs are working on him, like, come on, big man, breathe for me. Later on, Big Show, I think it was like the day before that or the week before that, Big Show got so pissed that he pushed a dumpster onto a car that the Big Boss Man and Albert were in.
You've been so mad you pushed a dumpster onto a car.
He tried to murder him.
Mad.
And then in one of the final weeks leading up to it, the Boss Man breaks into the Big Show's mother's home.
Right. Well, it's about time. That's what we've been building to here. Not so much the match, but just that union of souls between Big Boss Man and Big Show's mom.
Of course. And
a true union of souls.
Boss Man forces the Big Show's mother to admit that Big Show is, in fact, illegitimate. He is a bastard. Because Boss Man is like, what we have in this folder here is a matter of public record. Now, you want to tell him or should I? At which point she says, oh, I'll tell him he's a bastard. And then Boss Man goes, he's a dirty bastard. He's a no good bastard. So they have the match at Armageddon. I can't even breathe. At Armageddon 99, they have the match. And it's like a 3-minute match, and as it should be, Big Show decimates both Boss Man and Albert.
Right.
And that is the end of that glorious and wonderful feud.
Wonderful feud.
Again, we talk about bad angles on this show. That's one of my favorite storylines of all time.
We're 5 episodes in at this point, and I think we've actually only covered 2 bad angles.
I think we have.
That I consider bad.
Yeah.
I think we've only covered 2 that were really
bad.
Well,
oh my God, I'm hitting the mic. I'm so excited. That's why next week, Jeremy, we are going to cover something that is unquestionably bad.
What is it?
ECW December to Dismember 2006.
Let's call that what it is. WWE's December to Dismember.
WWECW December to Dismember. Because we talked about WrestleMania 9, and the end of it was horrible, but I kind of defended a lot of it. This storyline, everybody says, is terrible. I defended it. Katie Vick was bad, but you and I both enjoyed it.
I had a blast with that, man.
We enjoyed that one. So
again, and I think it's the whole lack of moral that we really.
I think so.
I think so. The dark. I appreciate good dark humor.
Oh, I do too, man. I love it.
I love it.
I mean, any time that you have the Blues Brothers car in an angle for no apparent reason, whatsoever.
Was it even like an old black and white police sedan?
Yeah, it had like it had the star on it and everything. Like it was, I think it was the exact Blues. And what's so funny is that the Wikipedia page, on Wikipedia, they have to like just state the facts with no flair and no. And it's like if you're just reading the page for this angle on Wikipedia, it just says, and the Big Boss Man attached the Big Show's father's coffin to the car from the Blues Brothers. like that's
like they had to kind of punch it in there and slide it in. Yeah.
Like what? Ray Traylor, may he rest in peace. I said it before, I'll say it again. Big Boss Man, one of my favorite characters of all time, and that is why. So Jeremy, I guess that is going to do it for us this week. Are you feeling better this week, buddy?
I'm a little better this week, yeah, man. We flash forward. Let's pretend like we totally just didn't record this episode within the same night as we recorded last week's episode. But for continuity purposes, yeah, man, just leaps and bounds better. My life, I'm shitting rainbows.
This is radio magic. You know what?
With the word magic loosely defined.
You want to talk about dark humor? It's my hope that we can record like 10 of these in a day, and then one of us dies, and then we just release them like week after week, like nothing happened.
The old Machiavellian.
And then Big Boss Man will dig our coffins up and attach it to the car from Blues Brothers and drive away.
Well, if you're the one to go, I'm going to throw myself under your casket and get drugged down the street.
Please do.
Oh, well, I'll be there to do it, man.
Oh, so that's going to do it for the Obtuse Angles Wrestling Podcast. This week's episode, Big Boss Man in 1999. Next week, the worst pay-per-view of all time by WWE. Maybe not as bad as, what was it, Heroes of Wrestling or Legends of Wrestling?
Heroes of Wrestling.
Heroes of Wrestling, which we will get to that one.
You want to play
well.
21? I got 22.
You want to play Blackjack?
I got too many of those.
That's going to do it for us. See you next week, everybody.
Adios.